About 4 years before I decided to write a book, which in the beginning started out as a spiritual reference guide for those that I taught spirituality to, I had a dream about the devil, and he was telling me that I wasn't going to write that book. And of course I didn't know what he was talking about, and that's what I replied. He then said he was going to have his people watch me. At that point I seen faceless people standing up against a brick wall. When I woke up, I told everyone about this dream. The next day we went to my husband's friend's house party, and I decided I wanted a coffee and a tea because I don't drink. So I asked him to take me up to the local gas station, which was a Speedway. I walked in and grabbed myself a tea and turned around to walk to the island of coffee. As I'm making myself a cup of coffee, I hear, Corpus Christi, Texas, that's where she's from. That's what I said. Startled, I looked up because that's where I grew up, and there was a man standing there that looked like Charles Manson, never acknowledging me as I said, yes, I'm from Corpus Christi, Texas. He then says it again, Corpus Christi, Texas, that's where she's from. That's what I said. Thousands in the penitentiary. So I said to him again, yes, I am from Corpus Christi. Still never acknowledging me, I walked over to the cashier, just us three in the store. He's now behind me saying it again. So I explained to her a little bit and paid for my stuff and ran outside and was telling my husband about it as the man walked past us, still never acknowledging me. And I would like to add that Corpus Christi means the body of Christ. On today's episode of Downloading God, we're going to discuss the different layered frequencies of lower Earth vibration. We're also going to get into Christ consciousness and synchronicities, as well as past lives. Well, it's going to be a good one, so I really do hope you enjoy the show.
If I were the devil, if I were the prince of darkness, I'd want to engulf the whole world in darkness. And I'd have a third of its real estate and 4/5 of its population, but I wouldn't be happy until I had seized the ripest apple on the tree. Thee. So I'd set about, however necessary, to take over the United States. I'd subvert the churches first. I'd begin with a campaign of whispers. With the wisdom of a serpent, I would whisper to you as I whispered to Eve, do as you please. To the young, I would whisper that the Bible is a myth. I would convince them that man created God instead of the other way around. I would confide that what's bad is good and what's good is square. And the old I would teach to pray after me, Our Father, which art in Washington. And then I'd get organized. I'd educate authors in how to make lurid literature exciting so that anything else would appear dull and uninteresting. I'd threaten TV with dirtier movies and vice versa. I'd peddle narcotics to whom I could. I'd sell alcohol to ladies and gentlemen of distinction. I'd tranquilize the rest with pills. If I were the devil, I'd soon have families at war with themselves, churches at war with themselves, and nations at war with themselves, until each in its turn was consumed. And with promises of higher ratings, I'd have mesmerizing media fanning the flames. If I were the devil, I would encourage schools to refine young intellects, but neglect to discipline emotions. Just let those run wild. Until before you knew it, you'd have to have drug-sniffing dogs and metal detectors at every schoolhouse door. Within a decade, I'd have prisons overflowing. I'd have judges promoting pornography. Soon I could evict God from the courthouse, then from the schoolhouse, and then from the houses of Congress. And in his own churches, I would substitute psychology for religion and deify science. I would lure priests and pastors into misusing boys and girls and church money. If I were the devil, I'd make the symbol of Easter an egg and the symbol of Christmas a bottle. If I were the devil, I'd take from those who have and give to those who wanted until I had killed the incentive of the ambitious. And what'll you bet? I couldn't get whole states to promote gambling as the way to get rich. I would caution against extremes in hard work, in patriotism, in moral conduct. I would convince the young that marriage is old-fashioned, that swinging is more fun, that what you see on TV is the way to be. And thus I could undress you in public, and I could lure you into bed with diseases for which there is no cure. In other words, if I were the devil, I'd just keep right on doing what he's doing.
chance. If you're a computer programmer, then you can understand how much intelligence, concentration, creativity, pain, and time it takes to write a simple code of just a few hundred words. Who is the programmer? This is why some scientists believe this is proof of God. If you'd like to check out this video, I'll leave a link in the description below. When I was in my 20s, I had a dream that Christ took me with him into the circles of hell for the purpose of pulling souls out who cried out for him. About a year after I had this dream, I went to an acquaintance's house, and there in their closed-in porch was a picture of Dante's Inferno, which blew me away. It looked just like the dream I had. That was the first time I'd even heard of it. What I believe is that the circles of hell are actually the layered frequencies of hell. Using the onion analogy again, I'm going to describe the gist of layers of frequencies that is from hell to the surface of Earth's physical sphere. Each layer holds beings of different frequencies of evils and sins. Let's say the sixth layer is the lake of fire. The top layer is evils of these current generations. Each frequency of the layers hold like vibrational sins. So if you are a pedophile, that means other pedophiles will be in that same frequency of hell. When the media projects evil through the airwaves, such as the movie Conjuring, which is based on a true story, they release evil entities from one of these levels of hell's frequencies into your homes. And because your thought process is at the level of that evil that they are projecting into your home, you can become possessed or deeply infected with human emotional decay. Remember, mental illness vibrates in these lower forms of human emotional decay. Who do you think they will go after? Your home will become infected chi energy, and add in the fact that they cast spells and perform rituals, it will become a diseased vortex, allowing more legions to rise up because your frequencies will be at their vibrating level. Some Christians are more fearful of tarot cards, while they should be to some degree because there are many false prophets. But the fact is, they should be more fearful of the evil agenda projected through their airwaves day after day, causing them to lower their light so it can become possessed. As I explained in the last episode, how I feel that we are the ones who becomes the devils because of the impulses of this evil collective consciousness that has built up from centuries of humanity's evils. This brings me to the next video I just happened to come across. I screenshot it where she was saying exactly that. He had the face of a devil. I will put the video link in the description below. You see, the veil of consciousness has thinned, or what I like to say is the split in consciousness is more apparent. Simply because we have evolved into a wave of social technology that we can communicate instantly. Today, we talk to people that we wouldn't have in the old days, but maybe once in a while. We have added to the agitation of these individuals who have a hard time in the spiritual warfare of reality. Some of these souls or beings will compartmentalize and feed on negative energy. And if things are said in a text form, then the energy from these conversations can be fed on over and over, fueling the anger and sinister thoughts. Some of these angry, ego-charged personalities will be infected by violent crimes on TV. They will feed on that light as well. They will daydream about the acts of violence that they're seeing on TV in personal ways and people in their own personal life. This is when the evil spirit will match up with the frequencies of this ego-controlled body. It will come through the light of the television or through the light of anger. People that hold on to anger, this will fester into grudges, which will fester into evil, vile actions. Well, we're at the point in the episode where we test your intuition. I'm going to send you a color, shape, and a bonus round card mentally. Give yourself 5 seconds on each image. Don't overthink. First feeling is usually what I like to go with. Give yourself a point for every correct answer. Then you move on to the next phase of testing your intuition. The bonus round is worth 2 points, but only after you receive the 5 points from the colors and shapes. Are thoughts electrical impulses? Well, the answer is yes. The thoughts that you are thinking of, the words your mind is processing, are all electrical impulses that can be measured if you had a few wires hooked up between your head and a machine. So thoughts are energy, the same as everything else. Neurons release brain chemicals known as neurotransmitters, which generate these electrical signals in neighboring neurons. The electrical signals propagate like a wave to thousands of neurons, which leads to thought formation. One theory explains that thoughts are generated when neurons fire. To thought. Not only your brain, but your entire body has an electric field. Anywhere there's a nerve cell, there's electricity. It's just concentrated the greatest around your head, because that's where the bulk of your nerve cells are. Anytime you felt the shock of static electricity or used a touch-sensitive screen, you've proven that you have electric field. So there's nothing mysterious about that part. Being an electric field, all those overlying electric wave patterns that comprise your brain waves are governed by the same equations governing electromagnetic spectrum, light particles, and everything else in the universe. The light seen coming from a star and the energy of your mind are one and the same type. I really want you to think about what I just said. Your thoughts are formed in this electric field. The measurable perturbations and disturbances in the brain's overall electric field are your actual thoughts racing through your mind. As you read this, the thoughts are thinking of the words your mind is processing are all electrical impulses that can be measured if you had a few wires hooked up between your head and a machine. So thoughts are energy, the same as everything else. Studies have shown the persuasive visual exposure to food has already been shown to exert an essential role in terms of consumption behaviors. According to Lancet 2006, the food information derived from the digital media is thought to influence over 70% of the food eaten by American households. At the same time, the dieting culture, together with lean ideals, contrast what the media seems to want to indulge their viewers with. What this is saying is that what you see is what you are eating, or rather than what you are ingesting. Remember what I said about when you ingest movies that are very dark and evil and based on a true story. You are ingesting what you are seeing. With your brain being electrical impulses, you can now understand how complaining physically rewires your brain to be anxious and depressed. Okay, so I read this book about 30 years ago. I highly recommend it. I don't remember everything, but what I do remember is a doctor was able to raise and drop her immune system at will through meditation and prayer, which is what aids attacks in its victims, the immune system. When I was younger, about 11 years old, I had a teacher named Mr. Hall, and he used to read the Bible verse to us every day, which used to comfort me, and the Pledge of Allegiance. When my mom was called in to speak to him, and I really can't remember why or what it was about, but the result was Christmas presents from his church on the requirement that I went to the church with his friends that lived in my neighborhood. Days leading up to going to church, I'd often wonder who it was that was in the neighborhood that was his friends, and I just had a feeling that it was the people across the street from my house. Come to find out, that was true. What church did for me when I was younger was an escape from the abuse, and I felt closer to God in that way. So I was extremely excited to go to this new church that was in my neighborhood. Now, growing up, my dad was a brick mason, and he would get up really early in the morning and be on the job site by 6 a.m. And my mom would be the one that would sleep in till about 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. But I had to tell my mom before I left, and I knew that she would always be one to sleep in. So I went to my room, which I had at the time, and started to think over and over, Mom, get up, and Dad, stay in bed till 2. Mom, get up, Dad, stay in bed till 2. I repeated this mantra until I fell asleep and missed the time to go to church. The remarkable thing was, when I got up, my mom was up, and my dad stayed in bed until 2. And I just knew it had something to do with what I was doing. Synchronicities are incidences of spiritual significance. They teach us that we are part of the divine consciousness, the hive mind mentality. The synchronicities can happen between family and friends, acquaintances, and even people we don't know. For instance, when I put out in the cause and effect what I wanted in a vehicle, because I was taking care of my ill mom and had to have a certain type of vehicle for her to get in and out of with ease. It just so happened that I come across this vehicle online. The synchronicities were the address was my grandson's birthday, and my birthday was the address next door. There can be divine synchronicities from loved ones that have passed on that are showing you that they are around as you think of them. This leads me into my next segment of my friends who had a very groovy synchronicity. But before I get to that, I want to touch down on the cords. These cords are like fiber optics that send information back and forth between you, friends, family, and people that you know in your life. The longer that you are together, the more cords that you have, and the more in sync you become. These cords can become ill, sending negative emotional energy back and forth. This energy is now the currency of your relationship. You can become in sync with somebody's dark side as well, so be careful. You may confuse these synchronicities as a divine coincidence. They are not. They are there to test you. I wanted to tell you a little story that was really ironic. My friend Stacy came over about an hour before my friend Athena did, bringing me over this silver serving tray, and I thought was really neat. So we wanted to tell this story, and here with me today are my friends Stacy Joy and Athena. So take it away, Stacy.
Hello, great to be back, actually. I came across this silver serving tray, and I know that you do a lot with food and stuff, and you cook more than normal, or half of it, I don't know. Cook more than me. Well, and so I picked it up because it was real cheap too. I think like 10 cents or something. I'm like, oh, I gotta get this. And I called you right away. I'm like, hey, I got you something. Can I come over? And I came over and I brought you this tray. And then that's when Athena called.
About an hour later.
Yep. So it was summertime, a couple of summers ago, and I was at a yard sale just shopping, and I saw something that reminded me of my friend Donna. So, of course, I picked it up and brought it over to her. And then she had showed me that our friend Stacy had just stopped over probably an hour prior to that and brought the same exact silver serving tray. It was
such a neat synchronicity.
And we got it the same way. I think I was at like a estate sale or something.
Right, they were both used. We both thought of her, and they had the same exact type of design, like some sort of was embedded
like
in
a set. It looked like a set.
I'll show it. I will put that on.
It definitely looked like a set.
Yeah,
that's pretty ironic.
Yeah,
from two different. I mean, we live far away too.
Yeah, I'm almost an hour away, so I ended up bringing it right over. So that was just weird. Then
and
the
then
same day
I was able to bring it right over too, because sometimes I can't always get right over. But that day I'm like, hey, I got time. Can I come over and bring this to you? And
there it was. You guys are awesome. Well, I appreciate you guys telling your story today, because I just wanted to show other people how we are all in sync. God bless. The point to the sending and receiving game is to get you used to listening to your intuition. So, for instance, let's say, God forbid, that a child was kidnapped. You would want to know what state they were going, what make of the car, what color it was, and you could even pick up on the license plate number. This game will teach you how to pick up on those certain vibrations. It is to get you tuned in to the world around you through frequencies.